Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Creepy paranormal experiences camping. Here's mine. Camping with two friends. In the middle of Maine. Nearest house is at least 50 miles away. It's getting pretty cold even though it's the middle of the summer and the temperature around that time was in the mid-90s even at night. It's pretty late and my friend falls asleep. I start to hear some noises outside far away. Every let's say 3 minutes the sound happens and seems to be getting louder. Still, I don't think much of it. We have weapons and I camp a lot and know many things about animals. The sound is similar to that of a coyote. My car was pretty far away though. I heard the sound again, this time much closer, still not right near our tent, but I was getting scared. I look over at my friend and I shake him a little bit. I tell him about the noise. He tells me to STFU and go to sleep. It's getting much closer now and is starting to sound like a human, but with a messed up voice. I freeze in my sleeping bag. I'm scared shitless. Whatever it is, it's right outside our tent. Its shadow is small, about the size of a German shepherd. But it has what appears to be the body of a young child. His arms look messed up and crooked, but you know how shadows can be. It started screaming pretty loudly, waking up my friend. It sounded evil. It sounded like it was trying to speak English. I shit my pants literally. Me and my friend just looked at each other, pale as hell, frozen with fear. Then we heard rustling noises and it left with some screams. We were frozen in there the next 10 minutes. We run to my car. Leave all our stuff behind. Last time I camp in Maine.
Go camping with my best friend Kayla and her BF, Jared. In New York State by the Finger Lakes. Sit around the campfire telling stories. A red light in the forest like a fire has started. Jared goes to investigate, takes our only flashlight. Me and Kayla are scared as shit, stick by the fire. Half an hour passes, phone has no service. An hour passes, we start calling his name and crying. Jared comes back, he is white as a ghost. We ask what happened, he doesn't respond. He gets in the truck and starts it up, me and Kayla follow. He almost drives off without us. We never found out what the red lights in the forest were, and Jared never spoke of it or the camping trip again. His personality changed after the incident though, and he became abusive to Kayla. They broke up. It's just one of those things now that I know I'll never have the answer to probably, but it firmly makes me believe that there is creepy shit out there that we were not meant to come into contact with.
I got one. Camping with two other friends in the Adirondacks. Nasty thunderstorm blows through. Trees blown down, almost die. Take shelter in random cave a couple 100 yards from the campsite. Don't bring a flashlight. Sun goes down while we're in there. Fucking pitch black as we walk back to camp. Can't see a goddamn thing. See other campers walking around with flashlights every once in a while. Stop as a group so my one friend can tie his shoes. Hear flip-flops in front of us. But we're all stopped. Flip-flops get louder. No sign of flashlight. Make out silhouette of man walking right towards us in the dark by himself. We freeze. He comes right up to us. It can get lonely out here in the cold and damp. He continues walking on by. WTF on back to camp. Then later that night, I was kind of like OP's friend in his first post. Wake up for some reason. Light up phone to check the time. Friend suddenly and desperately whispers, "No, please don't do that, don't light that up." I now realize what woke me up. Hear definitive human footsteps walking around outside the tent, stopping every once in a while and fiddling with things. It keeps getting close to the tent and then backing off. We all lay in brick-shitting suspense. Footsteps eventually just stop and don't start back up again. Ever. Don't even hear them leave.
I have a pretty long one. 2 years ago I went camping with 3 other friends, and I never believed in the paranormal until this experience. Night 1, get to the site around 7:30. Set up the tent. Friend pulls out Ouija board. Other 3 are all for it, while I remain hesitant. Other 3 leave around 11 for the graveyard to use the Ouija board. Stay at camp and talk with my girlfriend. They claim they talked to something and saw strange things when they finished, but I assume they're messing with me. Strangely enough, they all seem very serious and refuse to tell me what they asked whatever they had spoken to. We all lay down to sleep. Fall asleep. Wake up at 3 a.m. exactly, but my friends are awake and are completely silent. Wondering what was up, I listen for silence. I hear noises all around the tent sounding like they are 15 feet away at the most. Everything stops and I eventually fall asleep again, miraculously. The second night wasn't planned. In fact, we only stayed because we were curious as to what we heard the night before. This night, we stayed in an old cabin inside the graveyard. I did not want to do this. I was even surprised it wasn't locked by the town. It sits in the back of the cemetery on the edge of the woods we camped in the night before. After a day of doing absolutely nothing, we head towards the cabin. The cabin was completely empty except for a bunk bed in the back of the cabin. Scared out of our minds, we stay up until around midnight telling ghost stories. I lay down in the top bunk. One friend sleeps below me and other 2 sleep on the floor. We all fall asleep. I and 2 of my other friends wake up to one friend in the corner screaming louder than I have ever heard this man scream. Screaming friend runs out of the cabin yelling for us to leave everything and come with him. We are now completely confused, and so we sit in silence while the other one sits in his car. From the other side of the cabin we all hear a voice, and we all heard exactly what it said. "It's okay, he's only scared of me." All of us scramble to grab our sleeping bags and clothes and get out of there. And that was the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced in my life. The fact that we all heard it so clearly just disturbs me to this day.
Camping in northern Michigan, not far from Canada. Day goes well, had fun swimming at a nearby lake with pretty decent water. Starts getting dark, gather wood from back of truck for fire. Sitting at fire. My friend already is asleep because he is a friendly wet blanket sometimes. Decide I'll put one more piece of wood on fire before I go to sleep. I start to get drowsy, so I decide fuck it, I'll let it go out by itself. Stand up and bright flash like a camera going off in my face and high-pitched whiny whistling noise. Suddenly feel cold as fuck. Cannot see WTF just happened. Finally regain night vision. I see that the fire is out. I begin to think maybe I had a stroke or something. Moon is bright in the sky and all is relatively warm again. Wake up my friend to ask him if he noticed the loud ass fucking noise and flash. He says STFU I need to drive tomorrow. I do not sleep that night. To this day I don't know what the fuck happened. Not really that creepy I guess, but I was pretty scared back then. Near as I can figure, maybe there was somehow a piece of magnesium in the wood or something.
Some background. So this is something my mom told me. Sorry if I can't remember it too well, it's been a while. She has always been sensitive. I hate that term, but whatever. All the women on her side of the family are, including myself and my sisters. Okay, so my mom and some friends and my dad were out camping at this place called Kitchen Creek in the Cleveland National Forest in SoCal, like north of Campo. They were maybe all around 16 through 21. They were all dicking around and being assholes and had an open fire and were drinking. A park ranger came by and told them no open fires and to pretty much calm the fuck down. My dad's friend's Grego is half Native American, half Mexican, a huge motherfucker, and a mean drunk. He was pretty trashed at this point and got into an argument with the ranger. Words were exchanged and the guy eventually left. I'm a bit fuzzy in this part, so bear with me. Okay, so Grego started doing some crazy Indian chanting. When they asked him later, it was a revenge curse or something, and made a little talisman thing with a feather he had found around camp, and some leaves and twigs, and then cut his hand pretty bad for a blood offering or something. I guess he forgot how to end it or whatever and started freaking out. They all kind of laughed the whole thing off as him being trashed, but my mom was freaked out. Like if something could scare this 200 solid muscle rock of a man, then it had to be pretty bad. So that night the wind was blowing abnormally hard, and it was really cold. Even though they were in the middle of nowhere, there were like no stars out. It was cloudy, even though it had been perfect earlier. When they finally went to bed, my mom kept hearing footsteps around their tent, and made my dad go look. There was nothing there, but when he went back in, they heard something moving again. I don't remember what happened other than yelling and screams, and more footsteps. Their stuff was thrown around. I think there was more, but I would have to call her and ask. Finally, when things were their most intense, Grego did some more of his crazy Indian magic, having sobered up a lot, and buried the little trinket he had made, reopening the wound on his hand to bleed on it again. Things immediately stopped when he finished chanting. Even the crazy wind. The rest, if the night was pretty peaceful, everyone joked that they had been all worked up and trashed. The next morning my mom flipped her shit. She was the one who had wrapped Grego's hand, both times. It was a pretty nasty cut from thumb to pinky, and when they got up that morning it was just gone. No scar, no scab, just blood on the bandage. There were footsteps leading all around the tents, as well as through them, like starting on one side and coming out the other. And the hole he had dug for the talisman thing was just like gone. TLDR, crazy Indian magics ruin everything.
Not camping, but very similar. Also, too long to Greentext. I'm not a big believer in the paranormal, but this is the most I've ever been convinced. Week ago, go to hired holiday home mid-Highlands in Scotland, 50 to 60 miles north of Avimore. Me and 2 other friends, one friend sleeping in room downstairs, other friend in a room with me, separate beds. After sitting up watching TV until 3 to 4 a.m., we all head to bed. The room I'm sharing with my friend has 2 skylights, one facing east and one west. We close the blinds on the west skylight, but decide to keep the eastern one open because it lets in some amazing moonlight, no light pollution, etc. We go to sleep, but I wake about 10 minutes later feeling as though I've slept for hours. Roll over to check my phone, but just as I move to pick up my phone, I hear an echo of howls and freeze. There are still rumors that there are wolves in the Highlands of Scotland. Someone had told us in the local the other night, but none have been spotted for centuries. At this point I'm thinking, holy shit, I couldn't have just heard wolves, so I jump to the skylight to see if there's anything. Across from the house was a huge area of farmland bordered by extremely dense pine forest. Visibility is pretty good due to the moonlight, and I spot something running through the field opposite the house. It takes my eyes a minute to focus, having just woken up, and when they finally do, a slight shiver runs up my spine. The thing, to my guess, was covering about 10 foot a second, was down on all fours and was between 10 and 15 feet long. I couldn't make out any details before it entered the forest, but it was far too bulky to be a deer or a wolf. Told my friends about it in the morning, but they just thought that I was bullshitting. Still not sure what I saw. Only thing I could say was that it looked like a stereotypical movie werewolf.
Remember way back when I was about 15. One Thursday, a friend called me to ask me if I wanted to go camping with his family. The following people came with us: his mother, his stepfather, his younger brother, and his younger brother's friend. After a few hours of driving, we arrived at the destination. It was some sort of family caravan site with no paranormal-like aura whatsoever. It happened later that night. The adults were in the caravan and the 4 kids were in 2 tents with their doorways facing each other. You would have to walk through the path in the middle of the 2 doorways to get to the caravan. After talking a lot, trying to pull off an all-nighter, my friend and I started to talk about scary stories. About half an hour later, we heard something walking around the tent. We ignored it, thinking it was his brother playing around with us whilst we were in the scary mood. The footsteps stopped and a figure of what looked like a girl stood on my side of the tent. My friend stared with a pale complexion on his face as this person leaned into the fabric of the tent so you could make out some of their facial appearance. I don't remember what, but all we heard was, "Help me," in a whispering female voice. Bricks were seriously shat. My friend screamed and we bailed out the tent to the caravan to sleep in there for the rest of the night. I tried to look through the darkness and I noticed a girl stood perfectly straight by a water pump. I couldn't believe my eyes. My friend and I had to share a bed in the caravan. I couldn't sleep all that much, but I could see through the small window. My friend fell asleep and my eyes, for some odd reason, opened straight away. I saw someone walk past the window. Shit, I still want to go camping.
Phone posting, so bear with me, can't figure out Greentext. Be 16 and really into urban exploration. Live in small town Mississippi backwoods. I find out about abandoned farmhouse 20 miles out of town. Apparently, the family that lived there were Satanists, so I figure it'd be a fun exploration. Head there with friends. It's me, Johnny, Jimmy, Tim, Mark, and Matt. At the time I was 260 pounds. With some muscle. Friends all lift though. So, we get to the house and go in and immediately my head starts to hurt. Figure whatever, I get headaches a lot, no worries. House is set up. So you enter into a hallway with doors on either side leading to a staircase that goes up then splits 2 ways. Explore downstairs and kind of spoopy but not impressed. Then we go upstairs and it's somewhat similar to entryway, but the hall ends at a door. We take 2 steps into the hall proper and suddenly it feels like my head is in a vice. I lose consciousness at this point, so what follows is what my friends told me happened before I wake back up. So, I pass out at the back of group and my friends hear me hit the floor. Johnny runs over and starts trying to wake me. According to him, my eyes snap open and I grab him by the throat while saying, and I quote, "You need to leave now," while slowly standing up, eventually lifting him off the floor. Now something to note is at the time he was an inch shorter than me but was a brick wall of muscle. Apparently after that I said, "Too late," and crumpled to the floor. My friend Jimmy picks me up and they head downstairs to leave, the reason being that they knew me well enough to know I wouldn't have been able to do what I just did. As they are nearing the front door, they hear a door upstairs slam open and something heavy barreling towards the stairs. They book it back to the pickup we arrived in and Jimmy tosses me in the back, like a sack of spuds, his words not mine. Johnny fires it up and peels out. Johnny is driving. Jimmy is in the passenger seat. Tim, Mark and Matt are in the truck bed with me. This is when I wake back up. I sit up and Matt yells, "Dude, are you again?" I simply ask, "WTF is happening?" He points towards the back of the truck and I realize it is pitch black beyond the taillights and something is chasing us. I look in the cab at the speedometer and we're pushing 100 miles per hour. Now when I say pitch black, I mean it's like someone put a black dome over us. There was no clouds when we reached the farmhouse and no weather in the forecast. Suddenly it's like someone flipped a switch, the moon is shining bright and we're only 5 miles from town and the thing chasing us is gone. We get back to Johnny's house and they tell me what happened. None of us sleep that night. I've got another story related to this one. So, it's about 3 weeks later and we've chalked everything up to a one-off with the farmhouse. Weird shit, but nothing life-changing. Now I wish we had gone to a priest. So, we're sitting around bored 'cause summer. So, Johnny says, hey, let's go camping at this clearing he found. We agree and get everything together and head into the woods behind his house. Great thing about his house is there's no one for miles behind it. So, after an hour-long hike we reach the clearing. Now if you've heard of the Devil's Stomping Grounds, you'll know what this clearing looked like. I get a creepy feeling but chalk it up to nerves from what happened recently. Middle of the day and beautiful weather. We set everything up, gather firewood and explore the area. We brought 9mm pistols just in case. We stay inside of the clearing, so we don't get lost, also have a compass just in case. So, night rolls around and we have a fire in the middle of the clearing. I'm sitting in a chair facing away from the trail, Jimmy on my left, Tim on my right, Johnny on the opposite side of the fire from me, Mark to his left, Matt to his right. I'm getting ready to light one of the joints we brought. Because teenagers, when that creepy feeling slams into me so hard I drop it. I look up and the pitch black dome-like thing is happening again. I look behind Johnny and about 6 feet off the ground I see 2 eyes in the dark. I yell and point and Johnny, Mark and Matt look and run to my side of the fire. The whole time the thing is just staring me dead in the eyes. My friends and I pull the pistols we brought and don't even hesitate. We lit that motherfucker up. After our guns click empty, this thing's eyes start rising. The fucker was squatting the whole time. It had to be 10 feet tall. Suddenly it starts growling and I shit you not I could feel the vibration of it. Suddenly Johnny pulls out his dad's Desert Eagle. Now this surprised all of us cause that thing hadn't left its display case since his dad died 4 years before this. It was covered in religious symbols cause his dad was a hardcore Christian. Johnny told me later that he started carrying it cause of the farmhouse incident. He takes aim between the thing's eyes and fires until empty. The thing just looks each of us in the eyes and I could feel how pissed it was. Then it just vanishes and suddenly the moon is back, and the crickets are chirping. Johnny was in tears. He told us that he could hear his dad telling him to keep firing. That was the only I had ever seen Johnny cry. We didn't sleep that night, but you bet your ass we smoked every joint we brought and had fresh clips in the guns. We didn't go camping again until the end of summer. Thankfully that was uneventful.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.